to lead us in our morning prayer, none other than Mr. Baxter himself. Go ahead there. You're on, sir.
Father, we just want to thank you for the opportunity that we have this morning to get to know more about you. And as we go through the hour, we just pray that you would be with us, that your name would be glorified as King, and we give you all praise and glory. In your Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Great job, Baxie. Okay, I'm going to turn it over right now to Jimmy Peters, who will welcome the Bassen brothers, and we'll go from there. Jimmy, you're on.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Everybody can hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, guys, I am very excited to introduce Bobby and Mark Bassen and to hear their story and the story of how they came to faith and become followers of Jesus, and also to talk about their successful hockey careers. Bob played over 700 games in the NHL with 6 different teams. And Mark played in the American League, the International League. He played on Canada's national team, and then he played some years in Europe. And we'd also later on would like to hear about their life after hockey. And Bob and Mark, you guys have something in common. I followed my dad into hockey as you did with your dad, and your dad was Hank Bassen, and Hank Bassen had a 14-year professional career. Many of those years were played in the NHL, and in those days it was still just a 6-team league, so it was very tough to be a goaltender at that time in the NHL. In 1965, Roger Crozier and Hank Bassen were the 2 goalies with the Detroit Red Wings, and Paul Henderson was on that team, and Dean Prentice was on that team. Dean was playing with Boston during the year and got traded to Detroit. So part of that year, he also was on that team. And just an interesting fact, with that team, there were 4 future Hall of Famers on that team: Gordie Howe, Norm Allman, Alex Delvecchio, and Andy Bathgate. I was a rookie in the Detroit's organization, and I was playing in the minors. And during the year, Detroit called me up to play some games. And even though I was a teammate of Hank, I wasn't there very long. So I really didn't get to know him, partly because I was a young 21-year-old, wide-eyed, and just listening and learning. And Hank, at that time in his career, I think he was about a 10-year veteran. So there was a little bit of an age difference, so I really didn't get to know him. So I am really looking forward to hearing how Hank came to faith, and also to hear about the Bassen family with Hank and Shirley, and their influence on Bob and Mark as they were growing up and later on. So, Don, I'm going to turn it back to you so you can talk to the boys. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jimmy and Robin and Paul and the other Jimmy. We're off to a great start here, but back in the day, and I believe that there have always been Christians in the game, but I believe that they were more quiet, more reserved, maybe about their faith. Some of the early ones that we had heard of, Billy Ray, and Jimmy Peters has told me that Billy had a very positive influence on Jimmy's dad when they played together here in Montreal. And also, there were others during the day. But very few were outspoken. Jimmy Peters himself was an early believer in playing in the Ontario Hockey League and then then on to the NHL. I just want to say about Bob and Mark, and just to say this, that Jeannie, my wife Jeannie, and I first met Hank and Shirley Bassen in 1977. It was a year our ministry was just getting launched, and we met at a conference, and we sure came to love them. And so full of joy, Hank and Shirley. Oh my goodness! And they were loved by everyone. As a, it really maybe showed itself at the very end when it seemed like all of Calgary joined to say our farewells at both their memorial services. The church was just packed out, and such a wonderful tribute to a beautiful, beautiful Hank and Shirley Bassen. And our friendship grew over the years with Hank and Shirley. And when we were thinking about a camp in Calgary, they took the lead along with the Adlam family, and that camp is still going. Started in 1982, and I just think about all the lives that have been impacted over these many years. A tribute to Hank and Shirley. Well, Chico helped me here with these questions, guys, and I think he's asleep somewhere out. I don't know where they played last night, but he didn't want to be disturbed this morning. So I have the honor, guys, of conducting this interview. I'll do the best I can, but I just wondered, guys, Bobby and Mark, welcome, guys. And if you know the details a little bit more for us about how your mom and dad came to know Jesus.
Yeah, I guess I'll take it first because I talked to Bob last night, but I called our oldest brother Shane, who tried to get on this morning, and he gave the details. I had it mostly right, but before I get to my mom and dad, just want to thank all you guys. Bobby and I want to thank you guys. So many on this call that are a big part of our faith. Years ago, when my mom and dad started the camp, just connecting with so many of you, seeing Baxi again after so many years. My shins are still healing from when he would whack me as I'm helping him coach with those young boys at the HMI camps. And good to see him. I remember another little story, Dean Prentice. Oh my gosh, remember Dean would come, and he was pretty old back then, and he's hobbling along, like with that limp. And then me and Kelly Enns would come into the HMI camp there, and we're talking all night long. We're young pros and talking about girls, and he comes in the room at 3 a.m. Cripes, boys, keep it down. We're trying to get some sleep around here. Oh, but I remember him, and so many of you guys you really imprinted Bobby and my faith, our whole family. Thank you, Donnie, for what you've done for so many years. We wouldn't be here today talking about Jesus, and that's probably why we're here. If I remember one thing about my mom and dad, it was Christ. It was Christ all the time. My mom would just weep when we did communion at church, and I always wonder, why are you crying so much, Mom? And she would weep because I think they knew the need for Christ back when they were playing. And my dad, I never saw him cry ever, except when he would get up at HMI and share his testimony, and there I'd see my dad with tears down his face. So I remember it. And so I guess our mom got saved because they were living in Calgary in the summer near the end of their career, and she was desperate. She said, we are missing something, and she walked down the street to the pastor's house and knocked on the door, and it was their pastor, his wife, brought her in and led her to Christ. That was how our family started. It's pretty amazing just hearing this, because I'm so thankful she walked down there. And then it was later on that my dad came to faith. They were at a crusade in Calgary, like it wasn't a Billy Graham crusade, but another guy, but the Jubilee Auditorium it's called. And our older brothers were there and our sister, and they made an altar call. And my oldest brother Shane, who some of you know, Donnie, you know, he put his hand up, and then the guy said, "Well, if you put your hand up, come on down." And our sister nudged Shane and said, "You put your hand up. You better get down there. You put your hand up." So she was a part of it. Well, anyway, Shane went down. Well, my dad went down too, but separately, and there they stood and met each other really independently at the altar and gave their heart to Christ. And that was how my dad came to faith. And back then that was so strange. You guys, the older generation, thank you so much. I'm so thankful my dad had the courage and the Holy Spirit touched him, because nobody wanted to be a Christian in the NHL. It was like, I remembered my dad telling the stories like, oh, you're all going holy roller now, like that. It was so looked down on to be a Christian in the NHL. So that's the story of our family coming to faith, and I'm so thankful that God touched mom and dad to show us that Christ is the answer. So that's the story.
Wow, thank you, Mark. It's amazing how God works, isn't it? And imagine the pastor living down the street, and it's so beautiful. And thank you, Mark. Now, Bobby, what was life like in the Bassen home? And talk about the sort of the influence that your mom and dad had on you, on all of you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having Mark and I on the chapel this morning. Thanks for honoring my parents. They were great parents. They, like Mark said, they led us all the children to Christ, but they weren't perfect, but they were like a rock solid. So one of my memories as a boy playing in these small rinks was my mom and dad. Sometimes it was my dad. He would sit up in the corner all by himself and watch us play. And I could never figure that out until I became a parent and I watched my boy play. I want to sit up in the corner by myself, just because, like he didn't want to be distracted. But they were always there. Like, I don't hardly ever remember them missing. But they were, like Mark said, they led us all to Christ. They were Christ followers, and they were rock solid. Not, like I said, not perfect. My dad's favorite word, sucking. He'd be like, "This is the second last going on," but they were just so solid. I remember, this is a lasting memory as a kid. On Sunday morning, if any one of the boys, there was 4 boys and a girl in our family, if there was a hockey game or practice on Sunday, and we had to go to church, and to remember these hard pews at Foothills Christian Missionary Alliance, and just squirming on those pews, not liking it. I wanted to be at the hockey game, but now as I look back, they made a statement. They were, Christ is more hockey, and now I understand it. I didn't understand it at the time, but they were solid, and they took a stand for Christ. So that was my parents. They were fantastic. They stayed together. They stayed married, which was a great example for us all. And yeah.
So, Bobby and Mark, when did you guys become believers in Christ?
Well, for me, it was 6 years old. We lived in Calgary on a golf course there, Silver Springs Golf Course, and I was only 6, but so thankful for my mom. Our mom was incredible. She would just, I said to her on the couch looking over the golf course, I said, "What happens when I die?" And she says, "Well, I'm so glad you asked." And she said, "You can either go to heaven or hell." She was pretty black and white. She said, if you accept Christ today and what he's done at the cross, you can go to heaven. I said, "I want that." And I'm so glad she had the answer for me. I'm so glad she didn't tell me a bunch of hoops to go through and a bunch of things I had to do. She said, "It's a gift, Mark." And so she led me to Christ when I was 6 years old. And Bobby, you can share yours. I think it was at a summer camp, wasn't it?
Yeah, our church summer camp, we'd go to every summer. It was called Camp Camisole. Man, I remember this morning. I don't remember a lot lately, but this morning I remember a lot. Yeah, so we had it was tradition there to have a big campfire every night, and they invited, they talked about Christ and that he died on the cross. And then if you accepted Christ, you picked up a stick and threw it in the fire for that. But my sister Sandy, she came over to me and said, "Well, do you know Christ?" Like, no, I don't. And so I Christ threw my stick in the fire, and that was the best decision I'd ever made in my life. So
Right on.
How old were you then, Bob?
I was about maybe 9 or 10. Yeah, I was young. But our parents, that they knew that was important. We went to church, and they'd send us to summer camp at Camp Camisole, which was really a fun camp. It was outdoors, and I remember we'd ride tubes down the river. That's why I wanted to go at first, but it was a really fun camp.
So how did becoming a believer, a follower of Christ, how did that impact your lives? How, like, looking back, sort of having made that decision, what was the impact?
Well, I think Bob said it best. By the way, this is awesome having this Zoom call with HMI. I finally get to see my brother. I never get to see him. I call him, he never calls me back, but it's so great to see you, Bobby, and hear you talk about your faith. That was the best day of your life at Camp Camisole. You know, Bob said that our family wasn't perfect. I remember Kelly Enns, used to work with Hockey Ministries for so many years and still does. Donnie, you know him. He was one of my best friends. We did the camps together, but he used to come to our house and he'd go, he'd say, Chico, your family's like, everybody's yelling and your dad's yelling and everybody's fighting, and yet the presence of God is in this house. Like, it was like, so when Bob said we're not perfect, we were not. Like, we were far from perfect, but I think looking back now, the story of the Passover in Egypt, those families were told to just take a lamb for a house and just put the blood of the lamb on the door. And I've often thought about this, what was going on behind the door. I think if any of us are honest, we're just normal families that a lot of stuff's going on and a lot of sin going on behind those doors. We were not perfect, but I think that's the thing that Mom and Dad told us, that we're just believing, we're hiding behind this wonderful gift of the blood of the Lamb, and we're not perfect. But boy, I thought when Kelly Enns used to say that, it's so crazy in this house, but yet I want to come here because the presence of God is here. When I think of my mom and dad and our family, far from perfect, but how God can, want his presence in a people that are not perfect. I think that's what my mom and dad probably got through to me in my faith, that we're never going to be perfect. He's not asking for that, but he's just asking us for this simple faith to just rest in what Christ has done at the cross. I just think that's what my parents stood for, and I'm so glad. And it's changed. It's why I believe today. I would say it's mom and dad. I don't know about you, Bob.
Yeah, I think first of all, I want to thank like Paul Baxter, Lori Boschman, Doug Schmale, Mark Osborne, because like when Mark and I were young, we were Christians, but we went to this HMI hockey camp and we'd go every summer. And those guys were they were the leaders and the guys playing in the NHL, and they were our examples. So as much as our parents are obviously, like who raised us, but those players on the ice, we looked up to them. They showed us that Christ was the most important thing in their life. And then hockey was a huge part of their lives and the culture in Canada. But I remember going as a young kid. I just wanted to play hockey, but they showed us they were the rock in the NHL too, for Christ. Because I remember making it finally to the NHL, and I never got drafted. So I almost quit the summer after I didn't get drafted. And I remember like almost quitting, almost going to university. And then I got a tryout with the New York Islanders, and I got a contract. But I really believe, Donnie asked the question, what does Christ mean to us? Like everything I've got is because of Christ. And I know for a fact that if I would have got drafted, I would have thought, well, man, I'm so great. I got drafted. But I knew at that time when I finally got a chance in the NHL, it was because of God. Now, do we have a part to play? Yeah, we have to work hard and we have to train and, but to this day, it helped me because I know the peace that I have from God, all the blessings I have from God is from God. I work hard, but nothing that we have is without Him. And yeah, I have kids. I have a beautiful wife of 27 years. It's because of God. Is my marriage perfect? No, but we love each other and we work through it. And but we have a rock that's Christ. That's our base, and we can stand on that at all times.
That's beautiful, Donnie. Can you, because I tell this story all the time to boys that are like at our academy and boys that are trying to make it in hockey, but Bob never got drafted. He was almost ready to quit. And we were at a HMI camp in Calgary. I don't know if you remember this, Donnie. You could tell the story, but I tell these kids all the time, if God opens the door and makes a way, nothing will stop you from doing what God wants you to do. But he never got drafted, and he was almost ready to quit. And I remember you getting up at the HMI camp. Do you remember this? And you said, I have a paper here, or somebody called me from the New York Islanders. Do you remember that? And they're offering Bob a tryout. I mean, I remember you announcing that in the middle of how did that story go?
Well, I think your dad got a call sometime during the day. And so he told me about it, and he said, "Why don't we wait and we'll announce it? We won't tell Bobby. We'll announce it tonight at chapel." And so that was it. And Bobby was shocked and so excited. I'll always remember that. Yeah,
What
yeah,
a great story. God can make a way in the middle of a hockey camp.
yeah. It was a wonderful night. How about your kids now, guys? You learned so much from your mom and dad. How do you share that within your families now?
Well, I got my one son's on here right now, Charlie. He's on the bottom there. I told him to tune in. He's doing an internship here at North Star to be a coach and skills coach. But um, I don't know. It's just it's the only thing we've got that's good that we give him. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's not anything we do or sometimes even the way we act, because I don't think we measure up so many times. But just trying to, tell them the same thing that mom and dad said, like, Christ, just trust him because he actually changes lives. I remember mom saying this. Now, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but all those years at the HMI camps, there would be new people come in, like to the different, like, they had the committee all year long, and I was there as a young boy. And even during the camps, there would be like newer people that would come in with new thought, like new, it seemed like it was adding to the gospel. It would be, yeah, the gospel plus other stuff. And I remember my mom, she would get so angry. She would say, somebody get up there and talk about Christ, like him alone, And I often wonder, I could hear my dad saying, surely that's enough, But that changes lives. If I can say that today to encourage all of us, that's what was given, a lamb and a sacrifice, and he changes lives, and just simple faith. And I remember, it's in me today. I still remember it. Stop adding to it. That's what my mom was saying. We don't need anything else. He's enough. It's finished. He is enough. And I don't know. I hope that's what my family is hearing from us, because I don't think there's anything else to give. But that's enough to change lives and to hold them. So I would say again, thank you for HMI, but thanks to my mom and dad for God speaking through that message that he is enough.
Bobby?
Yes, so Donnie, my wife Holly and I, we've been married 27 years. We have 4 real great kids. We have 3 boys and a daughter. Our 2 oldest boys got saved at a HMI camp in College Station, Texas. So one's a pastry chef at an Omni hotel here in Dallas, and then our second oldest he just finished college. He's going to go to med school, but they got saved, and they're doing good. They're sometimes I think they lose their way and they come back, but they know Christ, and as parents, as you know, we just keep praying for them and trying to be a great example. And then our daughter, she's third. She's in Abilene, Texas, and she follows Christ and goes to church, and she's going to nursing school there. So she's great. And then our youngest boy he's playing in Hockey East at uh, just an example of this was something like when we played, you wouldn't even to doing this, but like in the USHL, he played 3 years, and he would kneel at the end of the game on the ice with, I think he was with his own teammates and teammates from the other team, kneel and pray. And I was like, whoa, like that's bold, and what an example. So, yeah, that's our family. We continue to pray for them, and yeah.
Thank you, Bob. That's beautiful, Bob and Mark. And to be able to communicate God's love to our kids, could anything be more important? Both of you have been very involved in reaching out to others. And I'll start with you, Bob. But in 2007, the All-Star game was coming to Dallas. And we have had these All-Star breakfasts, and I remember meeting with you and Holly and saying, "What do you think, guys? Can we do this? Can we do this?" And that event was unique, I believe, to All-Star events, but it was in the middle of the week. And how are you going to get? And people said that to us. How will you get people to go downtown Dallas on a weekday for a breakfast event? And but Bob, you chaired that committee. You made it happen. It was a beautiful morning. Any memories you have of that?
My biggest memory was like I was not 100% sure about the parking, so it was downtown, like at the, I don't know where it was, but I had to get out and start directing parking in the morning. So that's my biggest memory. Yeah, and then I share in front of. It's one thing, at least to me. It's really in the grand scheme of things, it's the same thing when you share Christ with anybody. But when you get up in front of the NHL players and managers, and it's a little bit intimidating, and I remember God's grace on that whole event, and how great it was. But directing traffic was a lasting memory of mine. I think you remember that, Don.
I do. Bobby was out on the street helping people get parked for the event. Mark, how about you?
Um, it's interesting listening to Bobby here. I got a funny story, but we were best friends growing up, especially when we were getting into our pro career, and Bob was actually tough. I wasn't, but I thought I was. And so I'm in the front yard there in Calgary, and I'm like pushing him. You're not that tough. You're not. So I I punched him just, like a girl. And when I punched him, I think I grazed him, and I'm like, during it, I'm like, oh boy, I'm done. This guy's the real deal. He chased me around the house 2 times and got me in the front there and just popped me, and down I go, and I'm laying there. He knocked me out, and all I remember is him over topping me. Chico, are you okay? Are you okay? Wake up! And my dad saw it, and he said, we were going to the St. Louis Blues training camp that year together, and he says, if I see or hear that you guys are fighting against each other at that camp, I'm gonna kill you both. You can see Mr. Hank doing that. Anyway, I bring this up because, I think last HMI Zoom meeting was awesome. Like, you could hear how to share Christ with people, and you heard such a beautiful range. Like, some of us are outspoken, but Bobby, my brother here, I'll never forget it, and he's still to this day. It's not so much how he speaks or that he's in the room talking about Christ. It's just every teammate he's ever had. It's just the way he lives his life, and that's the thing about Bob sitting here today. He's one of the greatest witnesses in hockey, but he's not up always. Sometimes he's talking, but a lot of times it's just God using him just in his quiet demeanor. And I'll never forget it because it gives hope for all of us. Some talk more, some are quiet, but God has moved through Bob in so many locker rooms and in so many players that I've met over the years. And they're like, your brother was showing Christ. And so, Bobby, you're a great example to all of us for sure. But yeah, I don't know. The question was how to reach players for Christ. I think if you put your faith in him, he's using you, like he really is, and in whatever ways. But it seems like it never leaves me. It's just like everywhere I go, hockey doesn't leave me, and Christ doesn't leave me. So there's so many players all around and hockey people to end up telling about Christ because they're there for hockey, but God's opening their heart up to this wonderful message of what Christ has done at the cross. So anyway, thanks, Bobby, for all these years for your stance, and maybe even to your younger brother. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Mark. Hey, Don, can I add this? And all you guys on this call know this. Early on, when we were a Christian in the NHL, it was not easy, right? Many times you were the only Christian on the team. And I remember as a young player knowing that there was Paul Baxter and Laurie Boschman and Mark Osborne and Doug Schmel. That was always really encouraging to me. I remember like going in the coach and saying like, can we have a chapel? And then getting up on a board and writing on the chapel. But I always remembered there's other guys in the league that knew Christ and that would support you. So that was always really important to me. And then I remember I started with the New York Islanders, and there was I don't believe there was any Christians on our team. And so sometimes you felt like you were not lonely, but you were like, well, you're the only one, And then I remember going to the Chicago Blackhawks, and Keith Brown and my buddy Mike Eagles. They were Christians, and what an encouragement! I say this as an encouragement to all of us. It's really important that we stay the course, and because people look up to us, that I remember my buddy Joe Newendike, who got saved later, after, I think it was after his career, but he would tell me a few times, man, I'm so glad that you were solid, Bob. Like, you were there, you're a Christian, and you were a good example. So I think I would like to, that's an encouragement to all of us, just to stay our course.
Yeah, Bob, we were talking last night. This is hilarious. So Brett Hall, who you played with many years, he sends you this video about Christ, and you showed it to me. We were blown away because I don't know if Brett wanted to talk about that too much over the years, but he sends this video that had the gospel in it, and he sent it to you. But you were such a huge impact on him. But I remember, Mom, it was back then, like we would go down and after the games and come out in St. Louis there, and Bob, you'd come out, and Brett Hall and all these players, and Mom would stand down there, and Brett would come up, and Brett would say, "How you doing, Mr. and Mrs. Bassen?" He loved it, Mom and Dad. And my mom would say these words, and I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed a little bit, if I'm honest. She'd go, "Brett, we're millionaires because of what Christ has done for us on the cross." And I remember Brett looking like I don't know what he thought, but I thought of that video you sent me here after all these years. I don't know where Brett is with his faith or whatever, but for him to send that video to you about Christ, maybe we've all been a part of it in some way, and guys coming to Christ, and so I'll never forget it. Like, Mom, what are you talking? Anyway, that was cool.
Yep.
You guys have let your light shine in the game in a beautiful way, and you've touched so many lives. Mark, you had a story about your dad. You and he were on the phone. It didn't. The call didn't go so well, and you did share that with us.
Yeah, it's one of the best stories of my dad showing the unconditional love of Christ that I ever remember. But it was like my first year pro in Hershey. I went for a tryout in Philadelphia and got a contract, and I'll never forget Bobby Clark calling me in and saying, "We're going to sign you." And I'm like, "What? Like, I can't believe this happened." So they sent me to Hershey, but your first year pro, I'm finding myself in and out of the lineup and then sitting in the stands, and I'm frustrated. And so Dad calls, and so we're talking, and he's like, "What's going on?" I go, "I don't know." And I'm frustrated, and he was too. And then the conversation started escalating, with Dad, how he's pushing the buttons. "Well, are you working hard enough?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, well, you got a good attitude?" And yes. And I'm getting madder, and he's pushing these buttons. And "Well, have you showed the coach you want to be in the lineup?" "Yes," I said. And I finally, it got where we're fighting, and I said some really bad things to him, and that I should have never said, but we're so foolish. And anyway, that phone conversation ended really bad, and I threw that old phone down, those old ones that, with the cord, and I was so mad at my dad, and I think he was upset too. And well, 2 days later, we are playing a game at the Hershey Park Arena there, that old wooden seated arena. And I'll never forget, like, I step out on that ice to take that first turn in warm up. And there my dad had gotten in a plane from Calgary, Alberta, and flew all the way down and just hung over the glass. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me, and tears started rolling down my face. He didn't have to say a word. He showed me, like, "I love you, and nothing will ever stop that." and he just showed me the unconditional love of Christ that day that I've never seen. Like, I knew that was it. There was no words needed to be said. I felt and I knew that love that all of us is longing for. And sometimes it shows up in mom and dad or other people, which is amazing, but it always shows up in Christ. And he showed it to me that day as he hopped on a plane from Calgary, Alberta, down to Hershey Park Arena and just hung over the glass. I tell the story all the time because that's what Christ did for us. God sent his only son and hung over the glass of our life and said, I'm here. I'm here for you. I love you, no matter what you've done or haven't done. So that was amazing story from Dad that will ever stay with me.
Thank you, Mark. A beautiful God's love. A love of a dad for his son, eh? When you think of how much the Father in heaven loved his son, and yet he sent him to the cross. And well, Bob, you have a verse, a very special verse that you want to tell us about.
Yeah, just before that, Don, I've talked about all the older players that were great examples and rocks for us younger guys. And I want to thank you too, Donnie, because Donnie, you were a rock. You were always supportive of all the NHL players, and I really appreciate that. I don't know if I've ever told you that. Even at the camps when we'd go in the summer, like as much, like just like my parents, you were a rock for Christ. So I want to thank you for that. Um, the the verse God deals with me at different times with this verse, and it's Proverbs 18:21, and it's death and life are in the power of the tongue. And you guys, anybody that ever played this game can understand this. It's so easy in the locker room setting to especially with like the coach, like you can talk bad about the coach so easy because there's always somebody on the team that's not happy, right? And it's so easy to gossip and but there's also life in our tongue. So, and I remember one. I played for the Dallas Stars, and one of the best playoffs I've ever had. I just felt the presence of God in my life, and when you have that peace and that rest, there's nothing can compare. But during that time, God told me to watch my tongue, and I just I knew that my tongue had something to do with His presence at that time. So it's something that every once in a while he he talks to me about it and said, "Watch your tongue. Be you because you can. There's power. There's life or death in what the words you say, and I think we deal with that every day. Um, and it's come to light. I have a colleague that I work with, and I'm in a meeting and I say something and they got something negative to say, and I don't even like say anything back, but it it's a good example of like death, like it's not the greatest thing. So I would just encourage that we all uplift people, and that's what Christ would want. So
Hmm. Beautiful, Bob. Yes, our words can be used in a negative way and in a very positive way. And we want to use our words to inspire and encourage others. And so thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mark. And we're going to take a few minutes. We'll open our mics. You guys can open if you have some comments that you want to make or anything maybe God has put on your heart. We'll take a few minutes and then I'm going to call on Gary Braun to do our closing prayer. And then Lori has got something to share on the Robin Burns Fun of the Game segment right at the after the closing prayer. So if you want to unmute, if you have a comment or a thought.
I just like to say, Mark and Bob, thank you so much for the inspiration this morning. It's so great to hear your story and the legacy passed down from your mom and dad. And Mark, you were mentioning, and Bob, I know you as well, that Christ alone is what it's about. And that really hit me this morning. And if I can just read this first verse of the song, In Christ Alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, a solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are stilled, when striving cease, my comforter, my all in all. Here in the love of Christ I stand. And thank you so much for emphasizing that this morning. It's Christ alone makes a difference.
Yeah, Mark and Bobby, it's great to see you. It's great to hear you guys talk, and I just have a few comments. I like both of you. Just on this call, I think we all stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before us, both as players who made the game better for us, and and as Christians, of course, and guys like Prony's on here, and Ronnie Ellis was a dear friend, and God used him in my life, and Paul Henderson and Jarvie was playing, and of course then while we were playing, there was Bobby was playing for different teams, and Brownie, who's on the call, Baxi, Ozzy, Gartz, and so I understand, we all understand what an encouragement it is when there are other people who are like-minded, because we're in kind of a hostile sort of environment, right? And so I really appreciate that. And the other thing, I too grew up in a family that maybe was quite boisterous. They used to yell quite a bit, but I was not brought up in a Christ honoring home. And I'm always reminded that it's not perfection, because that word has been brought up quite a bit, but it's the direction of our lives, right? It's the fruit. And if that direction, we do make mistakes, and we do say things sometimes. I think Bobby in James 3, the taming of the tongue. And if anything, I'm very quick to talk and slow to listen. Just ask the two women I've been married to. And so that's always very, very convicting. I've always got lots to say, but sometimes it's better to keep my mouth shut and listen. So I really appreciate that. It's really fun to see you guys and hear from you. And I just want to encourage everyone on the call today. Thanks for what you've talked about with your mom and dad, and also your lives as well.
Thanks, Bosh.
I
Just
just
want
wanted to say,
to give you a verse which is appropriate for today, because there's a phase in your Christian life that lasts a lifetime. It's called sanctification, and it lasts till you die, until you meet the Lord. Philippians 1:6 says, "He who started a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Christ." So we're all a work in progress. Just be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, and you will be receive good and faithful servant. That's what I want to do. That's all.
I would maybe just say a word. Super awesome to hear you guys.
You just want to mention.
Bob and Mark, thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for the years, Bobby. And all the other guys here.
I don't know who that guy is.
Is that Mike Eagles?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
That's Bobby's son, Michael.
Yeah, just to mention one thing.
Keith, Keith,
Keith Brown.
on us.
A little over a year in there. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, now we can.
Can you hear me, Don?
Yes.
Yeah, just mentioned that I had the privilege of playing with Bob, and if you knew Bob, the biggest part of his body was his heart, 80 pounds or less. And I think Mark was very similar, his incredible shape. But I went to Calgary, and I remember Bob invited a few of us over to his house for dinner. And I don't remember too many meals, but your mom made Cornish game hen. They had the fireplace going, and if there's one thing I remember, it's just the kindness and the grace of God was there, and just how special both Hank and Shirley were that day. And to this day, I've a great seeing you, Bob, and Mark. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Brownie. We need to talk after, you geeks.
Okay, guys. I'm going to thank you for your input. And Lori, for the fun of the game segment. This will be about a 2 to 3 minute segment for you that are new to us here today. So Lori, unmute and fire up the engines, and let's hear from Lori.
Well, as Bobby and Mark were talking about, there's lots of stories that we all have, and I did hockey ministries camps for 38 years. I was 30 plus years full time with Donnie. Did 4 to 6 camps every summer. And one summer, I remember Mark Bassen was talking about him and Kelly Enns, and they were in Edmonton, I believe. And I don't know if this is the same time. Dean McCammon was on a previous Zoom with us, and Dean said, I was in Edmonton as the HMI camp lead when he was 12 years old. Well, I didn't know that until he got to Ottawa, started playing with the Senators, and he told me that story. And then, of course, Don Lismer took credit for teaching him the skills to get to the show. But anyways, I remember what we used to do is sort of at the end of the day, we sometimes had a counselor pro game or whatever. But anyways, Mark Bassen and Kelly Enns, they were talking about, I don't know if they were Lethbridge Hurricanes alumni or if they were pro alumni, but they wanted to take on Donnie and I. And I was playing with Winnipeg at the time. And of course, Donnie was about 72 back then. And so, of course, Donnie, we did three on threes, and we did it during lunchtime. And so Bass and Enzi. So I said to Donnie, I said, look, Don, you play where you normally do up near the red line. Cause back then we played with the red line. We didn't go far blue line. I said, when I break things up, I'll throw it away. You'll have a breakaway. So anyways, Bass and Enzi were going like crazy, and they did score a few goals. But if I knocked the puck down or the goalie made a save or whatever, I'd throw it up to Donnie for a breakaway every time. And we were just killing him. And so I said to Donnie one time, I said, Donnie, you stay back and throw me up the puck, because they still didn't get it. They were still buzzing around down low and stuff. So anyways, Donnie threw up the puck with me, and I don't remember the counselor's name, but he was in Bass and Enzi's net. His name was Al. I don't remember his last name. And he was a southpaw. And I come down there, and I come inside the blue line to the top of the circles, and I raised my stick to do like a slap shot, and he did what Chico Resch did all the time through the years I played against him. He went like this. He lifted up like that, and I threw the puck along the ice. And I'm telling you, we had so much fun then. But last thing, we killed him, and afterwards, both Bass and Enzi were breaking sticks on the stands and everything like that. They were so ticked. But the most fun was Donnie and I always took the morning shift because we were a little older. And of course, Bass and Kelly, like you said earlier, they'd stay up till 2 a.m. talking or whatever. And so we were in these octagonal buildings in Edmonton. And so I talked to the maintenance guy and I said, do you guys have a lawnmower? Because you could go outside these octagonal buildings and you could talk and you could hear the echo. It was unbelievable because they were all together. And anyways, some of you Easterners won't know what an octagon building is, but anyways, so what happened is I got the maintenance guy to bring it to us after breakfast, and we had to catch the bus at about 7:15. So we started the lawnmower up, and the thing sounded like it was unbelievable. It was just echoing off the walls and everything like that, right outside their window. And we go and we're on the bus, and we see Kelly come out. It was the funniest thing. And he's trying to, like, he's looking around, like, yeah, we had so much fun. But anyways, we've had lots of fun when you've done camps for 38 years, and 4 to 6 a summer, it starts to add up, and there's always lots of shenanigans that take place. So anyways, that's Mark, that's just a couple of things I remember from that Edmonton camp.
Good job, Archie. Well, they kept us awake at night. They would be pranking us at midnight at 1 o'clock in the morning. And so last day at camp, we said, we're going to get even. We left that lawnmower under their window and just roared. And they come running out the door. And, yeah. Anyway,
that's awesome.
Good job, Lori.
That's awesome, Lori. Oh, man, that's funny. Thank you. I remember one night, me and Enzi were up till 3 a.m. talking about girls. Like, what do we want for a wife? Blonde hair, long legs. And Chico Resch is in the joining room, and he comes out at 3 a.m. He goes, "That's enough, you guys. You don't even know what you're looking for. You're looking for breeding stock. You want to get first rounders."
Chico.
I wish Chico was on the call so he could hear that diss I threw at him, but now I'm just gonna have to call him and tell him he used to pull up all the time every time I shot. But I do remember this because Frozie's on the
call. Bocce, I'm on.
Oh, Chico!
Oh, yeah, no, I heard the whole sequence. I just was laying in the background, seeing how much you would just give it to me. But here's the truth, you guys. I would pull up, and Bocce would slap it low, but it wouldn't go in the net. It would go in the corner. He never tells you that part of it.
Chico, where are you? Where are you?
Well, we're in Denver. We're the hottest team in the NHL right now. We've won 8. And the reason why, Donnie, I said I didn't know, because I don't know about some of these other young people that are listening, but when you get older, your sleep habits are just so unpredictable. I was afraid I might sleep through it because it's a time change. And that's why I told you take it, Donnie. And, there's some great stories. And the greatest was Chico. He wants to be called Chico, not Mark. But if you can imagine, if you knew Hank, hanging over that glass, and the glass was low at that time. Remember, guys, the side glass, and I can just see that beautiful red hair and face. Oh, it just gives me shivers, Chico, when you tell that story, because that truly is. And I think all these guys on the call, I know in their hearts, that's who they are too. I don't know one person on this call that doesn't want to try to exemplify that to their children. And so that's just a great lasting memory.
Thanks, Chico. It was great to have Chico up here speaking to our boys a few weeks ago. It was incredible, bringing his Stanley Cup, that little mini Stanley Cup, and I pick him up in the parking lot there in his little Stanley Cup. I mean, I'm thinking, I got to see this thing. And he's just rolling around in the back of the van down with the cookie crumbs, and the thing's all tarnished. You can't even see the names anymore. And he comes in and tells the boys, your story is incredible. Like, you got to send it back to the maker to get the names back on, because there's no way of polishing it up anymore. It's got to go back to the maker. What a great story, Chico. That was awesome coming here.
Well, thank you, Chico. And the last thing I want to say is, I don't know about Kelly Ann's. I've never met his wife, but you married way over your head. She is so much of a first round, first overall draft pick, and you are still maybe fourth round. But anyway, you just treat her right.
Hey, you guys, I'm just getting tired of Chico bringing that Stanley Cup to my house every time New Jersey's in town. He's been bringing it here for 35 years. Like, I'm getting tired of it. He puts his order into Andrea, like ice cream and brownies and all that kind of stuff. Hey, I have to say this other thing too. I see Frozy on here. I remember one time with Frozy, of course, back in the day, the goalies went out to cut out the angle and stuff like that. And we were in Winnipeg, and Frozy was with the Rangers, and there was guys in front of the net, and I'm going behind the net, back in the day when there was only one referee. And Wade Campbell had the puck at the point, and he took a low shot. And Frozy couldn't go out to block the angle or whatever. And Frozy's there like this with his stick. And I just tapped from behind the net. I tapped the top of his goal stick and just lifted it up a little bit like that. It went 5-hole. Frozy went crazy. And the goalie or the referee didn't see it. Frozy, I thought he was gonna go after me at the conference in Scroon Lake there, because he was pretty ticked.
Can you comment on that, Frosty?
Bosh, I remember that play very well. I also remember one time in Toronto, someone pulled my hair from behind. When I was hanging around with Ron Duguay then, and I had some hair, and so I had the mullet going. And someone pulls in a scramble. Someone pulls my hair from behind, so my head goes straight up, and I look, and it's Ozzy, and I couldn't believe it. You know what? The guys in the locker room said, "I thought you guys were Christians," and I said, "I thought so too."
Well, unfortunately, Frozy, with the way I played, I had to answer that question. That was the number one question as I went around and spoke. It's like, how can you call yourself a Christian and get so many penalty minutes? So I never tried to justify it, but I just, anyways, I won't tell you all the things I used to say.
But do you remember, hey, how many guys were at Scroon Lake when we had that? I think it was a fighter pilot, and he made the comment that hockey players shouldn't drop their gloves first. All right, he was one of the speakers. Do you remember that, Donnie? And I thought we were gonna have a pure six. Mel Stevens came down. And I was the MC, and I was trying to just, like a good referee, like a good linesman, trying to keep these guys apart from each other. It was unbelievable.
I think Stu was there that week too.
Yep. Gord Donnelly, Stu. There was a few guys there that were pretty tough. So it was interesting. But you know what? I would say this, Bosh, in regards to that play that you made there with my stick, that was probably one of the smartest things I've ever witnessed for a forward. That was really keen on your part.
Hey, I sometimes play D now with our alumni every Wednesday at 1:00 at Carleton University. And I tell all defensemen, man, I should have got into this gig earlier, because I still could be playing D. It's so easy. Like, just fire the puck around, hard around. That's all I do.
Oh.
How's your brother?
So Frozy, Frozy, just to bring context to that hair getting pulled, is that when that scrum occurred in front of the net and you had your blocker wailing away at one of our teammates, and I saw your long locks, I go, enough of that. Let's pull this guy back. And but Bass, Chico, Mark and Bobby, thanks for sharing. Great to see the just the journey in the game, and Donnie for pulling it all together. Those like Chico, Port Huron, I mean, the list goes on, and how each of us have been positively affected by all the various guys on this call. We've all been encouraged, uplifted, challenged. We never get it right. We're still on that journey, as Prony would mention, but it's that grace that gets us up in the morning and moves on for another new day. And so thanks, you guys. Great to have you be a part of it. We're all the better for it. So thanks.
Well said, Ozzy.
Thanks, Ozzy.
I want to say one more thing. I didn't know John Pronovo was on here till halfway through. Great to see you, John. And I think we're going to be rewarded someday in heaven for things we didn't even know we did. But like when Doug Jarvis said Christ alone, and then I saw you on here, John. I don't even know if you remember me. I'm a little boy, 10 years old or something, and you came to the and we went to our church. Bob talked about our Foothills Alliance Church, and you stood up, and I'd never been around really many Christian hockey players, but you stood up in the church when we sang On Christ, the Solid Rock I Stand. And it was like, well, with your broken accent, you sang louder than anyone in the church. And I remember you standing beside me and, on Christ the solid rock I stand. And I'm like, who is this guy singing? And it stuck with me like all my life, like a Christian hockey player can stand up and sing about Christ, the solid rock I stand. And here we are, I don't know how many years later. You probably didn't even know it touched me, but it touched me that we don't even know when God's using us, and you were just worshiping the Lord, and here I am. You mean we can do this too, hockey players? I mean, this is so. It was just great to see you on here. It's been so many years, and thank you.
Thanks, big guy. I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot of memories. Like it's a real blessing because my wife is listening too. So it's really a real blessing this morning. So that's all I can say. And I remember those guys. Less Bobby, more Chico, but less Bobby I didn't meet him as much, but I admire his courage. I knew he was a tough little guy. So
Prony, did you play with Hank at any point? Like in was he in Pittsburgh when you were there or no? No.
Hank played with my brother Marcel. That's when I never played against Hank or for Hank with Hank. I'm not that old, you know.
I was going to say you're really throwing Prony under the bus there, Don.
That's for sure.
Jeez.
It's not the first time.
Is LC Court on? Al, are you still on LC Court? Al, tell Bobby about the breakfast in Dallas. You were there that day. You got to unmute though. Al, you got to unmute.
There, how's that?
Beautiful.
Can you hear me now?
Better.
It's funny listening today. You think back how many people affect your life or how many seeds get dropped as you go through life. And one of the reasons I went to the All-Star breakfast in Dallas was because Bobby was speaking. And then I think about Keith Brown in Chicago when I was going through my divorce and all the issues that brought up. And then I think about Bill Butter's testimony during the All-Star breakfast that really woke me up. And just all the little things that happen along the way that Christ uses to, again, just to drop seeds and make effect in your life. So there was a lot of thinking going on today, and I am so thankful that these gentlemen were put in my life and that I was around them to accept or to hear their words and make a very strong effect on me. So thank you guys. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. And I truly appreciate you all. So thank you very much.